Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, show where you come for your regular geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond, Stiel.
Hello, Tommy.
How are you, mate?
Welcome to the Multiverse. Versions of this podcast pending.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine some of the different variations of us out there.
No, it's pretty much all the same
Variants.
shit.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's all terrible and no one listens.
How you been, dude?
Mate, I've been good. What about yourself?
Busy, man, but good. It feels like it's been there's been a lot of like good stuff that I'm catching up on in TV, and then lots of stuff in theaters that I watch. This is actually
I've been so busy. I need you. I'm going to lean on you for most of this week.
oh well, it's yeah. I just mean like every time I'm through with something, there's something else for me to catch up on.
Okay, all right.
So I got a backlog that I'm getting through. So it's been exciting.
I'd love to say I'm the same. This week's just been hectic, man. Wall to wall, like. Beside it not raining, like I've just managed to spend some time outside.
It hasn't been
raining. I know.
raining.
I've just been like, this is what outside feels
Weather.
like.
Yay, good chat. Weather.
I know, yeah. Jesus, what's happened to us? We are all business today because for once we're recording on a Friday.
Don't tell my boss what time.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we're taking a bit of time off work to do this. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what you've been up to. Wait, before we do that, there will be time codes in the description. So if you guys want to listen to us banter about our days, feel free. Otherwise, you can jump around. The main
If you haven't
topic...
already realized that, though, you just listen to the banter. So
yeah,
you missed
basically.
the time code
Yeah,
anyway.
the banter's the best part. That's what people listen to.
Yeah.
I looked at the stats the other day, and apparently people drop off way before the end. Oh, it's mainly for the banter, I think.
Okay.
We could just do episodes on that if that's what people want.
Yeah, fair call.
What have you been up to, buddy?
I actually started. I finished Deathloop, which was a good game, great ending, recommended. Already talked about it a lot, so I'll skip on.
Well, give me an overview of the ending then. Like you recommend
Spoilers.
It must be good. No,
Yeah, well, there's a couple.
Don't spoil it. No
There's a
spoilers.
couple
I might
endings.
play. Okay,
based off decisions
one of
you
those.
make. But yeah, and one of the endings leaves it open for a sequel for sure.
Fun.
So we'll see. I mean, I think it'll get one. It's pretty critically acclaimed. I don't know how the sales have been, but
I found out this week by accident by being on the wrong YouTube video that Elden Ring apparently has different endings as well. I mean,
surely it does. It's a massive RPG.
I didn't think about it, and I just thought I was just enjoying exploring. And I thought, oh, how do I do this one bit? And I flicked on, and it went into all the different endings, and I was like, why am I still watching this?
Yeah, that's classic you. Just get yourself spoiled.
Yeah.
What else have I been doing? I've been reading a book on crypto.
Oh,
just to
wow.
try and understand the world of crypto. And in between that, I'm reading multiple books. Reading Finishing Wise Man's Fear, which is, again, the series King Killer Chronicles. It's the last one. Well, there's another one that he hasn't written. It's like another 7-year gap.
He's working on it.
I'm worried that I've just put myself into another position where I've got like my favorite fantasy series is just unfinished.
Yeah.
So it's like, great. Does anybody finish books?
No,
these days?
never ever. No.
But
realized...
it's so good that I can't stop reading. I've juiced it for a while though. I've been reading this for like 6 months.
Okay, all right. I realize when we do this segment, which is probably my favorite segment of the show, it's not, but I do like talking about the things we've been up to, that we don't ever come back and say like an example, right?
Yes.
You talked to me about a TV show called Yellow Jackets about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you were telling me how much you loved it, and we never came back to explain whether the ending was worth watching.
Good.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that like when I was watching that, I was pretty much done with it, so I didn't want to spoil much of it for you because I thought you were going to watch it. But it was it's basically a more put together and succent Lost at this point.
Ah, okay.
So if you enjoyed Lost, I would say check it out.
Maybe we should frame this conversation like that. Do we recommend the things we're talking about?
Yes.
Because I sometimes talk about things and I'm like, do I recommend that?
So far, I do recommend that. I recommend Deathloop. I've started Horizon Zero Dawn. Like it looks really. So far, it's pretty
Zero
fun.
Dawn, not the second one.
Yeah. So I start with the first, right? You got to start with
that
the
would
first.
make sense.
Like it, but I'm not really sure I'm like mentally prepared to start another massive game like this.
It's
I'm
tough.
kind of like, oh god, this is about to be a lot of time. So I'm kind of like barely cracked the surface. And then I'm halfway through Moon Knight, or I'm on episode 4.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation this week with a friend of the show, Ollie, who, you know, is a dad, doesn't have that much time, and he said to me that he dropped off watching the Disney Plus TV shows because of how poorly he thought the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show was, and he hasn't even touched Moon Knight. And I'm like, it's probably the second best one for me anyway.
It's top 3.
What do you think is better than it?
Loki.
Yeah, standard.
And then you could argue WandaVision.
I think
I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know. But
yeah, I haven't seen the last episode yet. So I think the ending of WandaVision, it gets stronger, but at the very beginning, it's way too weird.
Well, it's like
way too weird.
The mystery. I mean, like week by week, it was pretty annoying because you're like, what did I get this week?
Yeah, exactly.
Not much. But I thought it was just like creatively different. It's very different for Marvel. So
I think like much how I feel about today's main topic, it didn't push the story along that far. It just was kind of contained.
well, it kind of did, and then like the main topic this week kind of just redid. But
Yeah,
like anyway, we'll get to that.
I feel like it made all these steps forward, and then just at the very end went rewind.
Yep, seriously, the Castlevania season 4 is just weird.
Oh really?
Do you remember it? Have you seen this far?
I feel like I must have stopped at 2 or 3. Like...
It's like going all over the place. But again,
BDSM?
I keep going. No, that's not that anymore.
I'm coming back to my guy. I don't know anything about the thing you're talking about. Tell me about this BDSM animated thing you're watching.
Please don't do
Please
that.
tell me more about
Please
this.
don't do this to me on the podcast right now. It's interesting. I keep watching, but I'm just like, well, they're just introducing crazy concepts with no premise. That's the word I'm looking for. And then Outer Range, which is the one with old mate.
Is that the Josh Brolin one you talked about?
Josh Brolin, yeah.
You're watching about 12 things at once. How are you doing
I'm just
it?
like, I'm reading 4 books. I just don't finish anything.
Okay, yeah. Well,
which makes for good chats now because I can't really give a full opinion on any of them. But no, this one's really good. And the last 2 episodes are coming out. It's a good, like, personal character story mixed with sci-fi. That's like the sci-fi isn't the center of it. So
that's good.
So far, we'll see how it ends, but I've really enjoyed it so far. I'll report back next week with the finished product.
I think based on your recommendation, that's one I may come round to. I've been a little off. Been a little off TV for the last few weeks.
So you're a little off Josh Brolin.
Yeah,
never
By
the
ever.
way, fan cast. I love Pedro, but how good would he have been for Joel?
Oh, in The Last of Us.
Yeah,
I think he's too. If you could lose a bit of weight, it'd be great.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does though. It takes me out of the character.
It's so ridiculous.
I know.
I just think he'd play Joel really, really well. Yeah. Like he's the perfect like candor of like aggressive, but like could probably be heartfelt.
He'd want everything with guns in the air immediately.
Yeah,
that's what he wants.
Yes, he would. Anyway,
no, that's cool. I think I might come round to that. But like I say, I'm a little off TV shows right now. I find everyone I start, I fall off of within a couple of episodes at the moment. So
there's a lot of like just above mediocre shows.
Yeah,
right now.
which I'm struggling with. Yeah. So one thing we started watching was, so my partner has never watched the first seasons of Stranger Things.
Oh wow!
So we've talked about this on the podcast. I've waxed lyrical about this. That first season for me it's Mount Rushmore of first seasons of TV shows. It's phenomenal. So we're most of the way through that. I think we're 5 episodes into that. It's 8 episode season. It's great. I mean, it's everything that it was the first time around I watched it. It's phenomenal. Except now, like, I can look out for the little details in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about it as well is I've realized that the budget on that first season must have been tiny. The graphics outside of the monsters are fucking terrible.
The monsters were good though.
Yeah, they were good. But
what other stuff happened though?
So there's a scene when the bullies catch up to Mike and Dustin, and they say to Mike, "I'm gonna stab your mate unless you jump over this quarry cliff," which would certainly kill him.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And he jumps, and she catches him with his mind and brings him back up, and then snaps the bully's arm.
Yeah.
But the scene where he's like levitating in midair, awful. Yeah. Like badly composited, looks out of place, too big for the size of the screen.
I remember that, like I vividly remember that the big drop was huge, and then he was like massive compared to it.
Yes,
I do remember that.
Yeah,
and thinking
weird.
like that was a bit weird.
Doesn't quite work, but other than that, like it's phenomenal, right? Like I kind of bemoan the fact, like, and this not dissimilar to the Game of Thrones conversations we repeatedly have, that they got more budget for the later episode. No, it's not going to,
because there's some news.
Yeah, we'll get to that. They got more budget for the later seasons, because season 3 for me, good as it is, I feel it suffers from hyperactivity. Like it's too much going on. It's too bright. It's
Game
too
of Thrones
80s.
or Stranger Things?
No, Stranger Things.
Okay,
it's too 80s. Yeah. We'll come around to that in a minute. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like if they could have kept that budget a little lower and just made it, just a bit more of a personal tale. I realized as well that I think one of the really key points that first season is that Will Byers searching for Will Byers' story. He's obviously in the Upside Down.
There's a mystery. Yeah.
The mystery, because that just adds an extra element to it. It's not just the bad guys.
Yeah.
And I feel like the second and third seasons really lack that personal
mystery.
Yeah. And
there was like still mysterious elements, like the fucking weird radio tower and like, but it wasn't like grounded in like all the characters should care about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, whereas like a person goes missing, you're like, what the fuck's happening?
And everyone can relate to, if one of your family members went missing, you would be devastated.
But what I did like about the season 2 of that one is like they changed it and kind of grounded, like if one of your friends was like literally possessed. How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
There were some creepy moments in that. I remember he's like, it likes it cold or something. And I was like, that was fucking creepy as fuck. Like, what the fuck? This kid is weird. Like, if that was my best friend, I'd be like, oh, you're kind of sus now. I don't know if I can hang out with you.
Buddy. Yeah,
but you're right.
Start saying that to you when you arrive every time.
It likes it cold.
I'll start opening the door so you're completely naked and just saying that to you. That's too weird.
Please don't.
Outside of that, I started to watch another TV show, which I'm pretty sure is a Netflix original, and I think it's Norwegian based on the dialect. It's called Ragnarok, and I mean that fits very nicely within a lot of things we talk about. But it's essentially this teenage kid who goes to a little town in the middle of nowhere. 'Cause his mum gets a new job, and it turns out there's all these weird shit going on, and he meets a weird old woman, and you think he's maybe a reincarnation of Thor, but he doesn't know it.
The old woman or him?
Him. And I've only watched the first episode. It's intriguing enough that I'll go back and watch the second one. However, the teenage actors, in quotation marks, the teenage actors in this, especially the main two, like the Thor type and his brother, they look 40. Like, there is no way they're teenagers. It's so weird.
I hate that, but also sometimes I'm glad because it's hard to cast good acting teenagers. But
the cast around them seem pretty good. There's like a couple of teenagers. Anyway, like it's not phenomenal, but it's been on my list for a while, so I thought I would bust it out. And the last one I thought I'd mention is, considering the main topic that we're going to be talking about today was, we rented and I got my partner to finally watch Spider-Man No Way Home. Now,
you paid to rent it?
Yeah, it's only $6. Now go back and go back and listen to our pod on that movie because it's a doozy. The movie itself is fantastic. I just love all the spoilers in that. We're not going to talk about spoilers here, but like everything that came with that movie, the expectation was so perfectly weighted, and then when it finally came out, like it was everything and more than I wanted.
Did you find it had high rewatch value?
I did. I really enjoyed it. It's a bit weird. And it's going to sound random, but in the cinema, and I don't like this, right? When you're in a cinema and people whoop at stuff, I hate that.
Yeah.
And when certain things happen in the plot, which are maybe telegraphed and maybe people could have guessed, but when certain things happen and certain characters arrive, without that whooping, it was a little bit of a damp squib almost. You're a bit like, oh yeah, there they are. That's cool.
So you missed the whoops.
I missed the whoops.
You missed the children
Never.
I get it.
Never thought I would say that, but it did. But it's very good. Like, I think more so, and I mean, this has come out a lot in the media. Yeah. You can tell the CGI isn't that good in many places, and a lot of it's clearly filmed on a staging set and stuff. So, but I think it's more about the story with that film.
Yeah.
It's the whole Peter Parker, he's screwing up everyone's lives.
Yeah.
Like, how does he bring it back?
Yeah.
Why didn't he think about just calling MIT first?
Well, and this is not really spoilers. I guess I'll just caveat that it might be the minor spoilers. But in that movie, even in the trailer, you see Doctor Strange mess up a spell. And I found it interesting that you're like, how could he fucking mess this up? You know what I mean? Like, why is his head off? Like, at first you're kind of like, is that even the real Doctor Strange? Right? Because he doesn't fuck shit up. And now you're like, oh, when you see the intro of this one, you're like, spoilers, but not really, because it's the first 30 seconds of the movie. His girl is getting married to some other dude. And you're kind of like, oh, well, maybe that's
just a human.
Maybe that's why he was a bit off in the last movie, right?
Maybe. Look, we've talked about this a lot. Shall we shimmy on to the next segment of the show where we talk a little bit about the news, and we call it Have You Heard? Have you heard this week, DL, that the Dune prequel has got a director? So
there was a prequel? I thought it was a sequel.
They're doing a prequel series.
Oh, so it's not Dennis.
No, not for the series. This is very much for HBO Max, I believe.
That's kind of concerning, though, because he's got a very...
But it is Emmy Award-winning director Joanne Renck, who directed Chernobyl. So I've got high hopes for that.
That's fair.
I know he's got a very specific style, but it'd be nice to see a different take on it.
Would it, though?
Who knows?
Because you're kind of creating a world. You don't want it to be like tonally different than the world already created.
The first film was lightning in a bottle. I don't know how he's going to replicate that for the second one.
Oh, I think he could.
Probably, but it's going to be a tough ask.
I don't know.
Actors at the top of their games.
I don't know. I think it's the same actors. I think it's doable. It may not be as good, but it'll be. I think he's got like he's locked into like a vibe.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm worried. I'm like, oh, if they go to just get someone completely new, is that vibe going to be completely different?
I mean, there's loads of material as well as books. books and books and books about this. So
yeah, I'm not saying that the lack of material, but because of how cerebral the series is, like it kind of there's a lot goes into the director's interpretation.
True.
So
well, I mean, you would assume that Mr. Villeneuve would be like an exec producer on this.
Yeah,
right?
you'd hope.
Like he's not going to be.
Yeah.
He's not going to just not be there. Like, is he? He's bound to join. Anyway, did you hear this week? Speaking of directors, did you hear this week the Fantastic Four upcoming movie, which is still currently undated, has lost its director?
No.
So John Watts, who is the mastermind behind bringing the MCU Spider-Man to us all in
the original,
well, in all three, the full trilogy,
yeah.
He's apparently left the project, claiming that he just needs a break from superhero movies. Marvel are claiming it's amicable, which is nice. Happy about that, but I feel like he's got a specific style and personality to his movies that I would like to see come through in more stuff. Like he clearly got that Spider-Man character, and whether that is just specifically for Spider-Man, or he's just a massive comic nerd, and he gets the characters. I'd love to have seen him give it a go, right?
I would have, but I can also appreciate that, like, you know, because as much as we like to like analyze these superhero movies, there is a lot of like repetitiveness to them, and I'm sure that like as it saps a bit of your artistic creativity if you're like not because like they're not good and entertaining and artistic, there's not artistic value in them, but because like you're kind of bound to certain thing like corporate rules,
mandates.
Yeah, it's like it needs to go this way, and the character has to relate to the next 5 things that you're not directing, right? Like, so it's kind of like might be a bit frustrating at times.
I can imagine that. I mean, you get burnt out by it for sure. All the mandates and corporate strategy.
That being said, I think with this one we're listening to today, he kind of pushed the boundaries of that, Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I mean, we will certainly talk about that in a minute. Do you got any news?
I do. Did you see the new trailer for House of the Dragon?
Ooh, I did this morning. What do you reckon?
I thought the vibe was on point.
I like the vibe.
It was I mean, Game of Thrones always had like pretty epic trailers.
Yeah, it's true.
It always did. You'd always get to see the trailer and be like, fuck, this is about to be lit.
They used to use cool stripped back versions of songs.
They did. And it would be like, you'd have like proper like modern music to it. And you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Very much like Bridgerton.
I don't know if I agree with that.
That's an in-joke because my partner's been watching Bridgerton recently, and I was semi-forced to watch some of it. Yeah. I quite like the music. They did like stripped back, almost Victorian style versions of them. Anyway, we're getting way off point.
Yeah, but I quite enjoyed it, and like the style, the CGI, the artistic direction looked really spot on.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what this is about anyway?
That's the point.
Because I can give you like the 2-sentence summary.
I think it's great for me because I've got you to tell me. But if I was a regular human who didn't have a geek for a friend who knows everything about Game of Thrones, I would probably find this difficult. I mean, like where this finished, didn't it? Like the fuck.
There's a lot of nuance as well, right?
Yeah, so much, and they all look exactly.
That's what I'm saying, and they all have the same names, and I thought it's very confusing.
I got, honest to God, Matt Smith confused with whoever the female antagonist is in this. I went, wait, which one am I looking at?
Well, they don't look anything alike, so I don't agree. She's like beautiful, and he's like kind of like ugly, handsome incest vibe.
Oh, incest vibe.
It's ugly, handsome incest vibe.
We talk about incest way too much.
But isn't it true? That's what he looks like. Ugly, handsome incest vibe. It's like he's ugly, but he's still sharp.
I think we agreed on this.
But incest.
He's the perfect person to be acting within an incest role in cinema right
So anyway, the vibe adds up. But the Dance of the Dragons, also known as the Dying of the Dragons, was the civil war during the Targaryen rule of the Seven Kingdoms pre-Robert Baratheon, which is what the Game of Thrones starts at.
They do name drop a Baratheon in the trailer.
It is one of Robert Baratheon's ancestors. I think it might be a generation or two.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's basically a war of succession that's caused because a king names his first wife's daughter, aka his oldest heir, as his heir, even though he's remarried and has sons of another wife that is younger.
This is all part of mythology anyway.
This is known. It is known. And there's a that's from Game of Thrones. It is known. And in any case, these two get eventually into a civil war, and that's not really spoiling anything. It's like the entire premise of the show. Because they both have kind of a claim to the throne, but she's a female and he's the male, but he's younger.
Right.
And they're half sisters, or half brother and half sister. And I'm assuming Matt Smith and her are the two that are gonna.
You'd assume so, but based on the
this
trailer.
is not sex. This is fighting.
You're slamming fists together right now, which
I know
could mean anything.
With Targaryens, it could be very confusing.
I'm bringing back my character if I don't know what you're talking about at any time. What do you mean by slamming your fists together?
But it looks good.
It looks good. I mean, I would be confused as a general audience member, I think.
Obviously, they're going to give you more like of a premise.
I think the challenge...
They're not just going to throw you into it. Like,
the challenge with the Game of Thrones seasons was that it wasn't massively picked up immediately from my understanding of it. Like, I came in season 3 or 4, I think. Mm-hmm. And a lot of audience, I believe, did the same. So it got lots of hype based on word of mouth. Whereas this, it's probably going to attract similar people who watched the last one, but they might not know all the mythology you do, like I say. So it could be a real challenge for people. I think people will watch and then drop off.
I don't care.
No, that's fine.
That's it. I don't care. If you guys can't like learn enough to enjoy a fucking medieval political drama, then it shouldn't be for you, and you should go watch a Hollywood shitty movie.
Well, the problem with that is it's so expensive that HBO.
No one told them to spend that fucking money.
HBO could drop it very easily.
No, they're not going to drop Game of Thrones.
They could.
They could, but they won't.
They could.
It's like they're literally, it's one of their top shows ever made, I think.
Yes.
What would you put ahead of it? Sopranos, maybe?
Sopranos. No. I don't really know.
It's a massive IP. They will not drop it.
Did they do Breaking Bad?
They could spend less. No, that was AMC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Anyway, that I also saw, did you see that kind of Ewan McGregor hinted at like the Jedi Fallen Order, that Star Wars video game, would have a connection to his show?
Ooh. Does that mean he's going to have a yellow lightsaber?
I don't know, but and then there was did you see a yellow lightsaber in the trailer? There was an updated trailer. Yes, I don't know if there was a yellow lightsaber in it though. That sounds kind of gross.
But you do see.
I wouldn't want a yellow lightsaber.
You do see shots of Darth Vader in this one. Ooh. I think it's just his mechanical hand.
Wow, that's sexy.
Yeah, wow, so sexy. I mean, wait, sorry. Can we go back to the last conversation super quickly?
Yeah.
I needed to ask you the same question I asked you last time,
about what?
About this new Game of Thrones series, based on the new trailer. On a scale of Jaime Lannister to Jaime Lannister, incest with Cersei, where do you sit now on your hype scale?
My hype scale is the things we do for love, because I am watching a Game of Thrones show after the despicable season 8, Brilliant. Despite my best misgivings, right? But I will be watching.
Brilliant. Can't wait. I'm excited for the Obi-Wan series more than I am this Game of Thrones series.
That's odd for you because like you're not a big Star Wars fan, but I do think that they'll both be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's just more that I don't know enough about where they're going to take this season. I think based on the budget as well, it's going to probably be not the things I enjoyed about the original Game of Thrones show. So, but we'll see,
You can do big budget and still be cool. We'll see if they actually pull that off.
When does that ever happen?
It happens plenty of times, Dune.
Name 12.
I'm kidding. Fuck off.
Final bit of news.
Lord of the Rings?
Before we get to final bit of news, let us know what you guys have heard. If there's anything we haven't talked about. We almost missed the Obi-Wan trailer. That only came out this morning, our time. So let us know at Podcast Assemble on Instagram. Fire us a message at us in a post. Let us know, and we will call it out next week. Final bit of news. Aquaman 2 is trending
this week when 20 dwep.
Well, based on the high-profile court case with Johnny Depp and, of course, Amber Heard, it was trending because people were trying to get Amber Heard removed from the series.
Trying.
And
successfully.
Well, I don't think successfully. I think they've just pushed the movie back. It's filmed. It's a finished movie. They're not going to remove her. It's not going to happen.
Well, I think that she's not going to be in future ones.
No, she
was the declaration.
But she'll be in this one. But the reason I bring this up is because friend of the show, I think it was Bertie, sent us the best meme of the week, which was when we started trending, trying to replace Amber Heard with Johnny Depp, and someone had just photoshopped Johnny Depp's face over Amber Heard's
in the movie, whatever her character's name is.
My day.
Which,
Mira.
Yeah, which they, it's not a pretty sight.
I don't want to talk. Yeah. I don't want to talk about the court case. I know nothing about it, so
there's nothing to know. This is a very, very freaking toxic relationship that they should just let it die. Why are they airing everything to the world?
Sounds like every relationship in Game of Thrones. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to talk about our main topic. Do you want to preface it this week?
We're getting, everybody, you got to know at this point. We're getting into the multiverse, boys and girls.
Madness, baby.
Madness in the multiverse.
We
went to see the Doctor Strange movie. I think like the day after it came out.
I think the day off.
Did it come out that day?
Yeah, for the general audience.
We also saw it in like a very nice theater.
We went gold class.
Yeah, which by the way,
Fancy.
like my seat kind of smelled.
No, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was weird.
But I was fine with it. It's just like wouldn't do it again.
I don't know how to sit on those seats. They're too big. I'm rolling from side to side.
And it's like I kind of wish I had if I'm gonna be this comfy, give me a blanket or something.
First world problems.
You know.
Right.
Anyway,
we are going to do non-spoilers, then spoilers. It's quite hard for some of the non-spoiler stuff, but we're going to do
because there's a very large
absolute
spoiler
best.
within the first probably 40 minutes.
Less.
30?
20.
20? You're saying 20?
It's in the first quarter of the movie,
Okay.
easily. Do you want to give me your stupid plot summary?
Yeah, sure. Doctor Strange experiments with more hairstyles than Britney in 2009 in this universe-hopping, third eye-opening, multiverse not, pun intended, which, like his ponytail, struggles at times due to its ambition, particularly if you haven't done your homework.
I love that. Yeah. That is beautiful.
Thank you, mate.
Mine is less good this week, but I will give it a go. Join the MCU's latest wild ride through the multiverse, where this time Doctor Strange is fighting against his strongest foe yet, his own reputation.
Ooh.
Wow.
He does have quite a reputation.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm excited. Well, this is your. I'm gonna say it. This is
Give
your
it to me.
most anticipated movie of the year.
It is and it isn't. It should have been.
Of the groups.
What could have been.
Go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, we did an episode on our most anticipated movies, most of which we've actually seen up to this point. One of which was
seen 3 of them at least.
Yeah, and then was The Way of the Water one of ours?
No, I refuse to watch that movie. I'm not going to do it.
We got a trailer for The Way of the Water.
This is actually a massive fake out. We're not actually talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We're just talking about the trailers that came out
before. If I have to see, I could literally recite the Maverick Top Gun trailer to you. Yeah.
God.
Anyway,
I've seen that so many times now. And the worst bit is, not only did we see the trailer for it, they also sponsored the opening of the curtains. And I was like, what the...
When does this movie come out anyway?
26th of May.
Jesus, get rid of it.
It's funny, on one of the lads groups I'm part of, one of the guys was like, oh, we should all go and see Top Gun. It's getting amazing reviews. It's this, it's that. And I went, you know, only the critics who've been paid to go and see it have seen it, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, you think it? I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure these people are being told to give good reviews for this. Like,
I'm not saying it will be bad. I'm just saying I just will not go to the theaters to see this. Maybe I'll watch it on HBO.
Yeah, when it eventually comes out. Look, before we get into it, do you want to guess for me the current IMDb score for this movie? Not Top Gun Maverick. I'm talking about Doctor Strange again.
7.5. It
is 7.7.
Okay.
And we're gonna talk about this in a minute. Do you also then want to guess for me the Rotten Tomatoes?
I would say it's like high 7, 8.
It's 78.
Yeah,
man.
There we go.
We got one for once. All right, and finally the Metacritic score.
That would be lower. 71.
62.
Ooh.
Now it's very interesting this because I did my little homework before I came to talk to you, and of the 28 now, I think it's 28 MCU movies, this is now the 7th worst rated on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's ridiculous.
Hear me out. Guess what it sits between.
7 worst.
And we've talked about one of these.
Well, Eternalists, Iron Man 3.
Yes. So Iron Man 3.
Thor, Dark Elf. I'm just thinking like which ones are worse. Honestly, in my opinion, Captain Marvel, but it got a bunch of praise, so probably not. I'd say it's just under Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Actually, no, Captain Marvel got really good ratings for some reason.
So it's sat between Thor, the first Thor movie, which is 77%, and Iron Man 3, which is 79%. Iron Man 3 is rated better than this.
That's ridiculous, though. It's not,
at time of recording.
It's better than both of those.
It's
movies.
crazy.
It is.
We'll talk about it.
It is.
Look, this is director Sam Raimi returning to Marvel. He is well known for his, essentially recreating comic book movies for the 2000s. We hear he brought us Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but he's also known for his amazing horror work, including such movies as The Evil Dead, which you know nothing about, and is one of my favorite horror movies.
A lot of people give this movie a lot of credence. I need to.
But yeah, this movie, we're not going to go too much into the stars just yet, but it obviously brings back Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Benedict Wong, my favorite character, Xochitl Gomez, who plays America Chavez, and Christine Palmer, who is Rachel McAdams. For once, DL, I'm a bit devastated that there were just no contenders for goofy IMDb pitches this week.
Really?
None. Absolutely none. It was pointless. There was one guy who looked a bit like a Dracula, but I was like,
adds up though. This is a very, very professional, classy group. The cast is strong.
I'm going to say
the cast is strong.
On IMDb, I think it probably only had about half the cast on there at the moment.
Yeah, because they don't want to spoil anything.
Correct.
But even the ones that it had, the cast is strong.
The cast, good IMDb pictures all around. So Alexander Skarsgård remains our current winner. Let's get into this then. Non-spoilers.
Okay.
Talk to me about the plot. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, there's a lot to get into. I would say, generally speaking, I enjoyed the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I did, even though I felt like it felt like a retread or a double take of a lot of the stuff that like really, really major Marvel nerds would have
already
experienced. And it maybe kind of feels like it set the framework for kind of the new direction a little bit more. Like, whereas we were exposed to the multiverse and these other, God, it sounds so nerdy talking about this.
We are so
well, you're
nerdy,
exposed to the multiverse and like these other peripheral Loki and WandaVision. This is now set kind of like, okay, you know about that, but this is the framework for how it's going to work moving forward. It's almost like the rules have been set, and it didn't actually progress the plot much further. Also, the MacGuffin was really dumb in this.
we'll certainly get to that.
But like, I found it interesting in the sense that like these last four, and you kind of talked about it with the IMDb like ratings of all the other Marvel movies. These last like 3 or 4 Marvel movies, like they kind of have all gone against the grain of like, you can kind of see Kevin Feige has released his grip a bit and is giving more broad direction because the directors kind of put their stamps on it a bit more for better or worse. I think in the Eternalists, it was like, it failed.
Eternals.
Yeah, whatever. Eternals, it failed. Whatever, it's a yada yada. This one, you can see Sam Raimi's hands on this.
Absolutely,
all over
that was
the
one of
place.
my key points. This is a Sam Raimi movie,
and
better or worse.
And I think mostly for better. There are for worse moments, but I think mostly for better.
So I actually really like the fact that Sam Raimi's given a lot of free rein on this. Yeah. The key challenge I find looking back at it is the writing of the movie. I've forgotten the guy who wrote his name. I think
there's some bad dialogue.
Michael Waldron. The dialogue is
not all of it, but there's some shockingly
super
bad ones.
hokey, and it takes you out of it at times. It's bad, but yeah, like obviously, you know, the kind of plot of this is that Strange, he's kind of back, baby. You know, he meets America Chavez, who is this universe hopping stranger. And
can't control her powers.
Who can't control her powers, and he's sort of the father figure. He's trying to help her get to where she needs to be, right?
While also like confronting his own need to control things.
Yeah, absolutely.
By hearing about what different versions of himself have done.
Yeah. And
seeing it as the viewer in the very first scene, actually, you see a version of him that kind of takes extreme action, right?
Now I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on.
Yes.
But my assumption, I think part of the reason why I'm not as positive at this point.
I'm pretty surprised that you're like kind of down on this movie, by the way.
Well, I'm not down on it, but I'm just not as positive as I might be.
You've mostly been negative.
Well, let me
justify.
Explain why. Yeah. Right? You said yourself it doesn't push the plot forward at all, but I think my key challenge with it is that I assumed going into this, as I'm sure a lot of people did, that this was going to be Strange having to deal with the ramifications of all the stuff that happened in Spider-Man No Way Home. And that is how he would end up on his multiversal hopping trip. I would have liked to have seen those ramifications. I would have liked to have understood what breaking the walls of reality could do to affect our reality. And in a sense, it did do that, but not in a way that ties it to anything else. It felt disjointed from the rest of everything we'd seen.
But didn't he fix that? Isn't that the point? He fixed it in Spider-Man No Way Home, or so we thought.
But clearly not fully. Like, you know, there's clearly bits of it that...
Keep waiting. There's going to be another movie.
I'm sure there is, but why not push this movie back 2 slots? There's so many fucking movies coming out. Push it back a few slots. Let us see Thor go all love and thunder on our trailer. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you don't know what they're going to put in. I actually think that most of the next couple movies will happen in isolation of each other.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
And then this will be... It'll all come back around in like the Avengers style movie 4 movies from now.
I don't understand why this couldn't have been that. So this movie, you push it back 2 or 3 slots. You have all the solo stuff. You got your Thors, your Return of Captain Marvel, whatever else is coming. And then you bring this back round to the multiversal point. We've just had multiverse rammed down our throat for 3 things.
I kind of see your point, but it's hard to say because you don't know where they're going. It's hard to judge until the phase is done.
Completely agree. Yeah. And the thing that Marvel do best is obviously lacing little things into their movies that you look back and go, oh my God, that's so important. But from an outsider perspective right now, I was looking at it going, as an objective, I know a fair bit about the Marvel continuity. I'm like, I don't know where is this going.
I think I have a good idea of where it's going. I think your point is it could have been better if we had more beef to it.
Yeah.
Like, but I also think if you look at like the release slate, like they needed a guaranteed hit.
I don't think they did. I think Thor: Love and Thunder's.
That's also like 5 movies away.
It's not. No, that's coming in like June or July.
Yes, now. But like they needed. If you look at like when I was thinking like, okay, it's hard to judge these movies, and there's been so many of them. So I'm just starting to do it by like phase, right? So what do you think of the Phase 4 movies? How does this one land?
Well, a little bit
to give you a list, I can tell you.
Well, a little bit of context for this movie then, and I think this might help us with this conversation. So, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Thor: Love and Thunder, and this Doctor Strange movie were all filmed at the exact same time, with Spider-Man being filmed in New York and Atlanta. Thor: Love and Thunder was filmed here, right in our very home in Sydney, and Doctor Strange was filmed in England. Now, what that tells me is, yes, there were reshoots, and yes, things were changed.
They're going to be in each other's movies.
No, what that tells me is that these aren't sequential, so they weren't filmed in order, so one knew what the other one was going to do, so they could push on from it. They just kind of happen. So the way I'm seeing it is like, once we pass these 3 movies, then we're probably going to start seeing progression of the story. Like, it's not progression of the story at the minute, it's just this is some shit that happened.
I think that like you're correct, but they could have also like talked to each other. I know that for Thor: Love and Thunder and for the new Guardians movie they did, because those ones impact each other a bit. I've heard. Anyway. Well,
look, let's talk a little about the performances then. Like, I think we're talking. I really enjoyed this movie. Like overall,
yeah.
I think we can put into 2 separate columns. We can say the movie itself, which I very much enjoyed, and then we can say the wider ramifications, the MCU side. And I think the MCU side, I don't think this movie worked, but as a standalone Doctor Strange movie, I enjoyed it. I had fun.
I think it was a good movie on its own, and I didn't hate what it did with the MCU side but we can't talk about a lot of that stuff because it's spoilers, so I'll save it.
Yeah.
But what I would ask you is like when you look at the Phase 4 projects, right? Where does it rank? You got Black Widow, you got Shang-Chi, you got Eternals, you got Spider-Man: No Way Home, you got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, right now it's the second best.
It's easily the second best. But even if you count the shows, I would say it's second or third.
No.
What would you put ahead of it? Just Loki? That's it.
Wait, name the shows. I can't remember them.
Hawkeye. Moon Knight.
No, Moon Knight's going ahead of this for me.
Really? Yeah. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't say. I'd say it's like on par. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. WandaVision.
I'd say WandaVision was better than this.
Wow. I don't agree.
I agree with myself.
Yeah, I don't agree. Anyway, so my point is it's still in the top echelon. It'd be top 3 or 5. Top 3-ish? 4-ish? Depending on who you ask, of the slate of 10 that have been released.
In terms of movies in Phase 4, it's top 2 by proxy. It's not because it's better than other movies. I told you it's not. By
That's just Rotten Tomatoes, dude.
Yeah, but that's real people reviewing the movie.
I think that Rotten Tomatoes is always hard because you got critics and you got audience, and it sits in the middle every time.
I understand that. I personally do feel that it's not as good as a lot we've had in the past.
Do you agree that it's not as good as Iron Man 3?
Great question.
Do you agree that it's not as good as Thor? Like, I don't think so.
I actually really like the first Thor.
The first Thor's good, but
I think that gets a bad rep. It's a great movie. Look, let's talk about performances.
Okay.
So obviously Benedict Cumberbatch is back, baby.
He's good.
He's bad in terms of accent and wig.
Oh my god, get over it.
But I like him as Doctor Strange.
There's a lot of different wigs as well this time.
There's so many fucking wigs. Do you think they'd get that by now though? It he's like where his hairline is on his face moves throughout the movie.
That's very true.
Like there's a point where it's right on his eyebrows, and I'm like, that's a bit weird. But I think he's nailed this character. Like the writing doesn't help him because they're trying to make him more quippy, but I think he's good.
Also, did like his wig? Like when does he get the strange hair? Because it takes him to like another multiverse where he has his normal hair.
Yeah, good question.
Did he have the strange hair the whole time in the first one?
Very end of the first movie, I think.
Oh,
or definitely at the beginning of
what happens? Like he finds his powers and then it gets new hair.
He gets like a little grey bit down the side, little fleck in there. No, I think he gets at the end of the first movie. I think he trims in his little beard, doesn't he?
I don't remember.
Look, I think he's good. Like he's got some hokey writing to deal with, and he does
like,
well.
I'm not here to talk to you about what happened at what is that? It's New Jersey, Westfield. It's like, dude, that's so yada yada over. Like oh god, it's just bad.
We're going to talk about that when we get to spoilers as well. Look. The rest of the cast I thoroughly enjoyed. Elizabeth Olsen, she's great in this.
Yeah,
You see in the trailers, there's some horror elements to that character based on the different universes. We'll talk about it in spoilers, but all of that, the way she can turn on and off different parts of that personality,
for sure,
amazing. And just to say, my favorite character in the world was in this, Wong. He's the best MCU character. What do you think of America Chavez?
I think she's fine. Like, she actually, she wasn't annoying, and
she's the best of the young.
That's mainly what I look for in young child actors. I'm like, just don't annoy me too much.
Just don't annoy me.
And she was pretty good and funny and
Her power set was
relatable.
A bit all over the place.
I mean, she just can jump through dimensions, right? So the premise is she can jump through the multiverse.
Yeah.
Unlike no one else can.
And the bad guy's trying to harness that power for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, but also she can punch really hard. Like
spoilers.
But she can punch real hard. Is that not a thing all superheroes can do?
She can do that. Rachel McAdams continues to be underutilized and very good.
Very underutilized. She's great though.
Yeah, she's
fabulous. I looked at everyone in this movie and I went, I think everyone's underutilized in a sense just because of the bad writing.
Lots of surprises. Well, I don't know if it's all bad writing. It's just there is significant bad dialogue that even if it's only like 5 to 10 lines, it's just so bad that it stands out.
Really takes you out. We'll talk about that. And I think that sort of leads a little bit what you're saying there into pacing a little bit.
Yeah.
I felt the pacing was where this film was let down quite a lot, and I think a lot of that leads into the writing of the movie. So
the flow, I don't even know if it's pacing. It's like the flow of it was weird.
Yeah, pacing, the flow.
Yeah, but
so there were there were a couple
thing,
of conjoined stories going on in the movie, which that's normal for a movie. You don't just focus on one character the whole way through, but the tonal shifts and the huge differences between the two was really jarring when you went one to the other. And one was almost this horror story, while the other was this self-understanding story.
Young adult, coming of age story. It was kind of just stop-start, wasn't it?
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is it didn't flow very well.
Exactly. I wouldn't call it plotting. I would call it jarring.
Yes.
There was times where I was like, oh, wow, what the fuck? Like this, which is fine, but like, I just think there was some minor changes you could probably make to like make it a little bit more even keeled. But
and I'm going to talk about this more in spoilers. But there was wrapping it back into pacing. There were definitely problems with that because there is a pivotal scene in the movie where time is really of the essence. They really need to get their asses moving. And Doctor Strange is just plodding along, walking along to the next thing. And I'm like, fucking move, you can fly. Just fly there. Do you know what I mean? Like, just get there immediately. Open it. He couldn't open a sling. We didn't have one. Just get there.
The movie kind of just starts and throws you in as well. There's not really a build. Like, it crescendos at weird points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a typical 3-act structure in my eyes.
Which is not always a bad thing. It just wasn't. It's not a typical crescendo.
I almost feel like there were 5 acts, and this is going to sound really weird. So, like, the 3-act structure of a classic movie, right? I feel like because there were the 2 stories going conjoined, I feel like there were 2 first acts based on the 2 different stories. So, Strange and the bad guy. There were 2 second acts, Strange and the bad guy, and then they all crescendoed in the 3rd act. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really work. Do you know what I mean? Like, because of the things we talked about, the disconjoined nature of it in terms of the different styles of each aspect of the movie.
Stylistically, there was a lot of, like, I actually liked the horror stuff, which we have barely talked about. It was kind of there was a lot of horror stuff, but it was pulled out by like this like young adult coming of age thing. But to be honest, I was entertained the whole time. It's not like I wasn't really bored except for with the manual cannons. Can we talk about this real quick?
Go for it.
Maybe it's not spoilers, but there's a point in the movie.
No, I mean I think it's in the trailer.
Yeah, there's a point in the movie.
He's talking about Kamar-Taj.
Yes, Kamar-Taj. Like, and let me just like find what there was a couple areas. Like, we're not only going across multiverses here for this analysis, we're going across the universes. Sure. Because the only thing more ludicrous than the Empire's single most strategic choke point being taken over by teddy bears might be that the fortress of Kamar-Taj is protected by bows, arrows, and manual cannons.
Unbelievable.
What is this? What is this garbage?
Magic. Well,
anyway, I'm sorry to
did it, Dre.
And there's another one, but it's spoilers, so we can't talk about it. But I had to point that out because it took me out of it.
Well, that takes us,
and I was a bit bored in that moment. That was it.
And that takes us nicely into the world building and cinematography. Yeah. So for me, the world building, and I'm going to flip this into 2 different parts. So we'll talk about the broader MCU in just a moment. But in terms of this specific movie, that took me out of it so much. You're in a world where we've got so much technology. Just get a gun, shoot her. Like, I know that sounds really stupid, but like, why use arrows? What advantage does an arrow have?
I just don't even need a gun. I just need like it just seems very ineffective. You guys have magic little thingies around your fingers that you can use.
That's what I'm saying. Just use magic better.
Yeah.
It brings me back to a great line in Harry Potter. There's a bit where someone, the Muggle Prime Minister's talking to Cornelius Fudge, the magic Prime Minister, whatever he is, and he says something.
But use your magic. He's like,
why? But you know magic. Why don't you defeat them? And the guy's like, well,
the other side does.
They know magic too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that must be the yada yada for this, right?
Yeah, for sure. I actually, though, other than that, quite enjoyed like the stylistic and like, I guess, the CGI and the stylistic. I like the
building of the worlds.
Like towards the end, when that one world, there's been an incursion, and you see, without
we should
going
talk
too
about
much,
incursions in a little bit.
But it's pretty like, and there's like whole skyscrapers going into oceans. It's just really cool.
Very Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I really liked the artistic direction of all that.
Yeah.
In combination with the soundtrack, which was phenomenal.
I mean, you see a lot of the jumping between.
The score.
Well, let's talk about the score in a minute.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. You see a lot of jumping between universes in the trailer, and you get that expanded more or less in the movie. And I quite liked the cinematography behind a lot of that. Like, some of it was reused. The bit where they became cubes, that's in the trailer. That's very similar to a scene in Infinity War where Thanos turns, I think it's Drax and Mantis into weird shapes.
Yeah.
With a reality stone. Very interesting, very cool. And some of the expanded parts of that are cool as well. So I liked that they've given us a glimpse into different things in the infinite multiverse that we could see.
And as they're crashing through those multiverses, did you notice that there was like a group of watchers just
You did, I
there?
didn't.
It happened real fast, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is
There's
cool.
a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of Easter eggs.
I'm pretty sure there were a lot of There's one that was a dinosaur realm. Fuck, I love dinosaurs.
That's all you had to say.
Such a geek for dinosaurs.
That's all you wanted to get out there.
That's all I wanted to say.
Dinosaurs is an underutilized part of
Big time.
Like all we have is Jurassic Park.
Big time.
Surely you can make another show about that. Like
Godzilla's just not good enough.
No,
it's not a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Give me a real dinosaur film. Look, we're getting very sidetracked here. What did you think of the action in the movie? It's an interesting one because it does kind of split. That first sort of the first part of the movie where you get the Kamar-Taj scene is kind of so-so.
That part sucked. Everything that was smaller scale was really cool.
Sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think that would be my summary.
The one-on-one stuff. That seems to be a big part of Marvel these days, though.
I mean, it's not even just one-on-one, just smaller scale. The horror elements, where they, right after the Kamar-Taj scene where they, trap somebody in a spell. And it's almost like this kind of fun house. It was really cool, and artistically creative, I think, the way they did that.
And that sort of leads into my first point was I really like the new spell stuff you see in this. So just
chaos magic.
You got a lot of new chaos magic. You got a lot of Doctor Strange's new magic. So there's a bit where it's in the trailer where he's fighting a big octopus type monster with one eye. And something you hadn't seen before, for example, he just conjures hands that pull a lamppost out of the ground and smash it over the head with it. It's great. It's I like some of the new stuff. Yeah. And it's really interesting that I'm going to link this, shouldn't do, but I'm going to, into music. I think the music in this is phenomenal.
It is. It's really cool.
And we're going to talk about the Danny Elfman score just a little bit in a minute, but for music specifically, but it was great. There was an action scene where they literally created a fight with musical notes.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And it was just
But there's a lot of that, though. And that was, a specific part that was super cool. But, overall, I think that was a strength of the movie. You look at all the, different fights, and you're like, whoa, this isn't, a typical Marvel fight. It's, it's more cerebral, it's more creative, and
Danny
visually
Elfman's
appealing.
done so many now. I think the last Marvel MCU one he did was Age of Ultron. But, he's in a bunch of good movies. But that scene specifically was a really
highlight
fantastic.
for sure.
And that leads into the CGI, man. What did you think of the CGI in this?
I thought it was good. That's what I'm saying. I thought mostly I enjoyed it. There was a couple parts where, the monster seemed a bit cartoony, but that first monster with the eye.
I think it was still good for what it was.
Yeah,
I think considering it was a full CGI and it wasn't
because there's a lot of CGI in a movie like this.
It wasn't worse than the one that we got in The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. I think it was pretty.
No, it was
similar.
Equivalent, yeah.
Yeah, and when you're doing a full CGI thing that doesn't look anything real, it's it's hard to.
No, I agree.
But I thought the action was good. I like I say, I liked the new spells in it. The CGI kind of worked. We got more sparks. It looked better than Spider-Man, basically. I think Spider-Man really fell down with some of the CGI it had. Especially, I remember we watched the new Spider-Man just now, and the final scene where he puts on his new outfit and he whips through New York.
Vaguely.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
Awful CGI. It looks like a PS2 cutscene.
I think that like Spider-Man in general, like his outfit always looks a bit rough.
The newest,
for some reason.
The new one just looked not good. Final point on CGI. Some of the characters flying were pretty rubbery. They didn't look very realistic. It wasn't great. Yeah, but when you got the close-up stuff, like when they were flying through the multiverses, very much enjoyed that. Yeah, very much enjoyed. All right, then. We've sort of talked this to death. Do you want to talk about tones and themes?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like grief and really.
I just wrote grief bad.
Grief bad. I think it's just accepting what you can control and living with what you can't. Yeah. Is kind of like one of the big themes. I tried to think of other ones. There's probably like a coming of age tale theme for America Chavez, which by the way, what's going on with that name? America Chavez.
That's a tough name.
Bad.
Tough name to say. Also, her actual name is hard to say.
It's
Xochitl Gomez, spelled XOCHITL.
It's proper Mexican, like
full,
historical. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think grief. The whole first part of this phase 4 has all been about grief.
Yep.
And dealing with it.
Which makes sense because like they had a massive kind of climax and endgame and a lot of things. You want to see the fallout of that, right?
Yeah, you should.
You should be.
All right, then. Grief bad is the takeaway from this. Yeah. Do you want to give me your 3 best and 3 worst? This is where we talk about our 3 favorite and 3 least favorite things from the movie. Non-spoilery, to give you maybe a bit of a heads up on whether you may or may not want to see it.
I'd say the music and artistic direction of this Marvel this movie kind of stands on its own. It's very, it's very good. Very unique, and I really enjoyed it. I'd say the cast in general, Absolutely. And there's a lot that we haven't even been able to talk about, but that should maybe get you excited to go watch the movie anyway.
Great actors in this.
Just the first Marvel movie that was, we argued about this at the end, but I wouldn't call it a horror movie, but it had heavy horror influences, and it's definitely the most scary. There's some gruesome deaths. For a PG-13 movie.
For a PG-13 movie, I think it's as far as you can go as a horror movie.
It really did borderline that.
And there was some real gruesome bits as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there was the most gruesome Marvel movie. Like, it's not... Yeah. I still think it's fine for kids, but, like, there's some moments that would fuck with you, I think.
I think it'll get edited for Disney+. Or at least... Because I think they now have 2 types of profile where you can have adult and kids ones. I think it'll get edited.
Yeah.
Great. My 3... my first 2 really sort of fit within one of yours. Wanda. I'm not going to go too much into it here, but like I think she's one of the best actors in the whole of the MCU right now.
Yeah, she's
got everything. She can flip between different personality types. She somehow pulls off the weird magic stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like it looks crap, but for some reason her doing it looks good. It's like, yeah, you're good.
She's pretty hot.
She's a good-looking girl.
Doesn't hurt.
Wong. Just my favorite actor.
Wong?
He's just my favorite. Like, he could do anything. He could be the worst in the film. He could be a bad guy, and I would still love him. I think they tried a bit too hard to make him and Strange bantery without... and it didn't feel very natural this time. But, like, he's great, man. Like, I'll do anything for Wong. And then I just said, I did really like some of the new magics they brought in, and especially how that leaned into the multiversal stuff.
Yeah. I agree with all of what you're saying.
What do you think about worse then? What gives you...
I think you talked about there's some hokey dialogue. When you have like as good of actors as we have in this movie struggling to make these lines hit, like that's when maybe you need to think about a rewrite, writers, FYI. So I'd say that's a big part of it. And then and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pulpit here to talk about it, but and I think this is touching on what you have, like with where you pointed out the MCU part. You didn't like this movie as much, but like as a standalone movie, you did. I think there was just rushed lore.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's kind of the downside of having these directors kind of, giving them credence, right? Over Feige having his hands more in it. Because if you give them more credence, like obviously to borrow from like a famed Seinfeld line, they're going to yada yada over a lot of this stuff. Because the Marvel comic book lore isn't what they care about, right? They care about making like an impactful, character-driven, creative movie that
though they are seeming to bring more and more of that into it, which is interesting.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, to the best of their ability, they kind of fly through that stuff.
Yeah.
And this kind of, it has its benefits and its downsides, but I think, particularly around some of like the chaos magic lore that we are kind of just forced to accelerate through and accept very quickly, despite really only being exposed to it for a brief minute in WandaVision for like the last episode, which was only 20 minutes or something, 30 minutes. I think that kind of part of it fell down. And you're right. They still need that stuff. So you kind of have to, it's a hard balance to kind of, what's the word? It's hard to navigate that balance because you've got these directors that are going to put their stamp on it and they're going to naturally not want to deal with that shit. So that was one downside. It was a very long-winded one.
It was.
And then,
I thought that was 3.
Yeah. And then I just think there were some pointless kind of large-scale fights that could have been cut.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with that. I think you get a lot of that in these films. They all feel like they need a big thing at the end. They don't. The
point was made with some of the smaller scale fights, right? So no, I think it's up to you now. Like, what were your 3 worst?
I think mine are all sort of broader strokes. None of them are too specific. So, it kind of feels like the MCU's brushing under the rug a few things that have previously happened, which I think in the MCU leading up to now would have been major issues.
Yeah.
You mentioned Westview.
Yeah.
Why was that yada yada? Like, she's a bad person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The stuff in No Way Home, like, I get it. Why didn't we explore that more in this movie? This is the fallout of the multiverse. That was what that movie was supposed to be setting up.
Didn't they make a joke about it? Not much. Not much,
though. It was a throwaway line, and it was bad. I felt like they should have focused on that. That should have been the focus of the movie. For me, anyway. My second one is nothing moved forward. I feel like we're in the same place, basically.
And I think part of that is because they rushed through some of the lore.
Time.
Like, if they gave more of a like build up and explanation of that, you probably would have felt like it did more, but really we were just like, oh, that stuff happened.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think my last one is, and we've kind of touched on it, and I think in talking to you now has made me understand why more. It's that it felt oddly disjointed through the movie.
Yeah.
And I think the disjointed nature of the 2 storylines makes it happen, but it does kind of feel disconnected as well from the rest of the MCU. Anyway, let's get into spoilers. Is this movie better or worse than Aquaman 2018?
Most definitely better than Aquaman 2018.
See, I would normally put better with an exclamation point. It's normally better. Whereas today, it's better.
You don't get to do that. It's better or worse.
I know.
It's just there's no explanation points. There's no periods. There's no dots.
Just giving you what I wrote down.
Trying to cheat the system.
Just saying what I wrote down.
You're trying to cheat the system. It's better.
I'm saying it's better.
It's better.
That's all I'm saying. Spoiler time then.
Yeah.
So, Scarlet Witch.
Gonna go kill everybody.
Gonna kill everybody.
She gonna just kill everybody.
So she essentially needs America Chavez to get to reality where her kids from WandaVision, if you haven't seen that show, go watch it. Because you won't
do your homework.
You won't understand this at all.
Do your homework. It's minimum.
Are real and alive. So that's the basic plot of this movie. So it's essentially she's trying to steal the kid. Doctor Strange is trying to stop her.
And she realizes that the kids that she dreamed up in, her little crazy moment actually could have been figments of her dream walking, meaning her, certain beings are able to, through spells, go to other multiverses through dreams.
Well, not even that.
That is part of it.
They make a point of it that your dreams in your reality
are real.
Are just things that are happening in other realities.
Yes.
And she realizes that early on due to having the Darkhold, which she got at the end of WandaVision, which is the book, evil spells, etc. And she essentially decides that she's going to go and steal another version of her kids.
Yes.
And the twist at the end of that, which I actually loved, was, and we'll get to how they got to there, but the way she realized that she was being evil is by seeing kids, the kids from a different reality, seeing her,
and being frightened
and being scared shitless of what she's become. And I love that. It's that self-reflection.
Yeah, it's good.
I think that the movie really lacked the personality, and it was great. Like, that was phenomenal. I don't know what you think about that.
I liked it a lot, but also part of me is like, okay, well, like, where does her? Because the way it ends with her story is they eventually, the coming of age tale. This girl learns how to use her powers just at the right moment to show the kids from another dimension, Wanda being in her most evil act, which is like very well. That's good writing.
Really good writing.
The part that I'm like confused about is like she kind of like kills herself, but not really. Like buries her, but like where does she go from here? Because like wasn't the whole point that like her and Agatha Harkness like she was like, you're real bad. Like Agatha was like scared of her, and she was gonna go back and use Agatha, and now she's like Agatha's trapped in that random world or something. So I'm kind of like, isn't there still a bad guy arc here? Surely it's not done yet.
Could be.
I would hope that there's more to it. Is my point.
Yeah, I mean they left it very open ended. It's the same as.
But she kind of has a coming to Jesus moment.
It's the same as everything though, right? Like you don't see her die on screen.
But I guess my point is I wasn't done with her being a bad guy. I wish they would have just trapped her.
She could still be.
But it feels cheap.
Yeah, it does feel cheap.
If she comes back suddenly like, whatever I just said, I'm over it now.
Now, the one thing I wanted to bring out here was we talked about pacing, and I mentioned a very specific scene, which I'll elaborate on now.
Yes.
My issue with pacing is a real big one. So at the very beginning of the movie, Doctor Strange realizes that there is a monster, and he's after America Chavez's powers. Doctor Strange from a different universe.
Yeah.
And he tries to steal the powers, and it's taking him like 4 seconds. Said Doctor Strange gets killed, and America Chavez escapes.
Yes.
Right. The end of the movie, Scarlet Witch, the most powerful being, whatever, ever, is trying to steal her America Chavez's powers and has her strapped to a table.
Yes.
Very, very witch
pentagrams.
Yeah.
Candles. That
very
kind
much
of
that
stuff.
aesthetic. And it takes her like half an hour to start draining the power.
You gotta stop with this, dude. It's semantics.
No, but the point is, like, Doctor Strange knows how little time he has, and he's just
you're right. He's walking around,
wandering through a different universe. I'm like, oh yeah, let's have a walk. It's like, no, man, fucking hurry up. Like,
time is a flat circle. You know, it could be seconds and days in the other universe. You don't know how time works.
That's how you yada yada. And I understand how you yada yada. That annoyed me.
I can tell.
Let's talk about the horror.
The which one?
The horror. Scarlet Witch as.
I mean,
she was fucking frightening.
I mean, like, there's a lot of different elements. There was like slow build horror where it's like was super creepy because when they would do these dream walking, as they call it, where they basically seance their way into other multiverses through spells. Yeah. Doctor Strange a version of themselves in another universe. Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch can do this. There's almost these possession sequences that happen in that other universe.
A lot of dark magic to do that.
Yes, it's not healthy.
Not healthy.
It consumes
for you or your forehead.
Yeah, it consumes or your forehead. Bringing whole new kind of definitions of blackheads. Right? Yes. You see sequences where she does that and goes to possess another version of herself, and it's really creepy. These possession sequences. Really it's a lot of like Moon Knight style stuff where like. She looks in the mirror and it's a different reflection looking at a different way. It's quite frightening and very cool. Like crazy concepts of like, there's a teacup and then all of a sudden there's an ocean in the teacup. It's just very, very cerebral and heady. I quite liked it a lot. Then you've got these horror sequences just like where she's blood, oil covered, everywhere, just killing everyone. Yeah. Just like this almost like Terminator style haunting.
Yeah, she really was. And there's a bit just after, so we're going to get into that scene in just a moment. Yeah. But there's a bit just after that where she's chasing America Chavez, Doctor Strange, and Rachel McAdams' character down a hallway. And it's almost like The Ring. Yeah. She's like on all fours. She's like all rickety. It's got that noise, and he's like, it's like
because she's injured. And then there's also the part where she like comes out of way earlier they trap her in this like
Comatage.
Comatage, what I was kind of alluded to earlier. They trap her in this kind of like fun house, and she uses in the mirror dimension. She uses the like reflections in the mirror to like try and find them in the real world. So anywhere there's a reflection where they actually are, you see her, and she like fucking climbs out like all The Ring again, like The Ring. Yeah. It's very creepy.
It's interesting going back to pacing for just a second.
Yeah.
So that scene, loved it. Did you feel that Comatage fell way too easily? Considering that's all the magic uses.
That's my point. It's like these fucking stupid cannons.
Awful.
They're like literally racking a crank to turn and shoot her. It's like, guys, this is fucking.
Not even that. Just use magic. Why are you using a cannon?
Yeah, exactly.
Fire some shit at it with magic.
I kind of wish they would have just cut that and like. Because like he'd fucked up and revealed to her so fast.
Yeah, she was already there.
They had very little time to repair, and you don't need the big.
That's a better idea. Yeah. A better idea. Or she could have just rolled over like a cloud. Everything was destroyed when the cloud moves back.
Yeah, and it's like cut time and
I don't need to see her. Although it's very cool seeing her destroy all those peoples. Look, let's talk then. I was a little gutted we didn't see more of Evil Doctor Strange, as in Evil Doctor Strange. The version from What If.
Well, we kind of did, but not.
This wasn't that.
It wasn't the exact same one, but it was a version of like basically in What If we've seen that there are and they touch on with the Illuminati, which we haven't even talked about.
We're gonna get to
that most versions of Strange actually go too far.
Yes.
And so this is a version of Strange that's gone too far. It's not the same one from What If, but it touches on that same concept. But he was
using the Darkhold the same way Wanda was. The book, the evil book, the bad book.
Yes. It seems like a similar outcome.
Let's just quickly then talk about how that fight between Wanda and Doctor Strange finishes up. So the very beginning, I talked about it a moment ago, an alternate version of Doctor Strange gets killed by one of Wanda's minions in a different reality.
Yes.
And that ends up in 616, our reality, right?
Yes.
And
there's a lot of Inception stuff that comes from here.
I'll be quick though. So Wanda, as I mentioned, is trying to steal America Chavez's powers. Doctor Strange uses this dream walking state to project himself into dead Doctor Strange.
From the original opening sequence, that Doctor Strange with the ponytail that gets killed from a different dimension and brought
while
into the
stuck in a different dimension.
Yes.
Yada, yada, yada. Lots of things get very quickly. I guessed that within half an hour.
What?
That was going to happen.
Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? But that's okay, though.
They set up a second Doctor Strange in the universe.
Yeah.
They set up the dream thing. I almost turned to, I felt I didn't want to ruin it for you. It was
but it's not that big a deal because like certain things are going to be telegraphed in these movies. I don't think it was meant to be a twist. It was like a Chekhov's. It was a Chekhov's Doctor Strange dead body.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
Like I don't think that's going to come back.
It annoyed.
Why else show it? Right.
Let me finish. It annoyed me because I've lost my train of thought. Because in that final scene where it's Wanda at her absolute most powerful versus Doctor Strange, there were no stakes. She could just kill that version of Doctor Strange and it wouldn't matter. Wong was kind of in the background as well. It's like we weren't going to... Our Doctor Strange isn't losing anything.
Yeah.
Other than he might get stuck in that dimension, so what? Like it.
Yeah.
The stakes were lowered by that.
I think that that's a kind of a product of them making it seem like it felt really risky what he was doing because when he goes and dream dances with a dead body, he enters a new realm where it's like whatever the fuck it is. What is it? Dream walking. Whenever he does that, he does it into a dead body. We've seen everybody do it with like live people and it's creepy. When he doesn't do the dead body, it gets like really weird because there's like dark, like hell spirits basically that torment him. And because they yada yada over that lore, like it does feel scary. I'm like, oh fuck, he might be screwed now. But I don't really have enough context to be like, is he really?
Sure.
Like there was no risk to him doing that because we didn't establish the stakes of it. So I take your point, but I still thought the art direction of that was really cool.
It was all right.
Like when he turns into Zombie Strange and is flying around with these like weird ghouls coming out of him.
Yeah,
it was really creative and cool.
Didn't think the CGI on the actual Strange itself, the decomposing body, was great.
I don't think it was CGI. I think it was prosthetics.
Oh well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was CGI. All right. Let's then talk about the Illuminati.
Yes, which is such a dumb name, but I guess it's supposed to be.
Comic book.
So dumb.
Comic books, baby. That's stupid.
Such a dumb name.
So the Illuminati, as in real life, is a collection of individuals. Well, as in real life.
I was going to say, that's not what it is.
As believed in real life, is a collection of individuals who essentially... they watch over and they direct the world, the way the world is going. Yeah, effectively. And in the comic book universe, the Illuminati is exactly that. It is a collection of the smartest heroes who join together to try and shape the way the world is going, to try and stop essentially breakdowns in communication between the different groups. Now, we get some fucking great cameos in this, don't we? The cameos we get, so let's talk through who is on... What happens is Doctor Strange gets busted into a reality which is all futuristic and very nice.
Like New York post-Thanos.
It's like New York 2250.
If we were green friendly.
If Elon Musk ran the world. No, I'm kidding. I hate that guy.
Do you really? Anyway,
nice.
Side note.
Cameos then. So we get this Illuminati team who is like a group of our smartest heroes. And we get Professor Xavier, who is once again Patrick Stewart reprising the role. It seems as though he is the version from the 1990s X-Men comic because of his yellow chair. We get John Krasinski as Reed Richards, who's long been rumored to be that character.
If you're going to do that, I think that carries into the other movies. What's the point?
I'd like to see it, but it might just be a nod to the fans. Because, I mean, they're going with a different direction with them. I think they might go younger again for our Fantastic Four.
But what makes you say that?
Well, you think the Fantastic Four is one of the key pillars of the Marvel Universe in the comics and have been since the 60s. So many stories to tell about them. And if they want to do it well and they want them to longevity... Like, they want these characters to be around for 10 years.
Old?
I'm not, but...
Is that your point?
He's older.
I think he's got plenty of life left in him, mate.
I'd say they'll probably go a bit younger to begin with. Anyway, we've got John Krasinski, who I really liked. We've got Captain Marvel, who was played by Carol Danvers' best mate from the first movie, who is Lashana Lynch, Monica Rambeau. We have Black Bolt of the Inhumans, who we'll explain in just a moment. We got Captain Carter, who returned as Haley Atwell, and we got Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is obviously Baron Mordo.
A bunch of these are kind of like what-if style versions, or even different.
Are alternate versions of a lot of these characters. So like I say, Haley Atwell, Captain Carter, is an alternate version of Captain America. We know that. Yeah. Monica Rambeau is an alternate version of Captain Marvel. Yep. Said that. Chiwetel Ejiofor is the same character, basically, but in this universe, he has become Sorcerer Supreme.
Sorcerer Supreme.
I knew there was a word for it.
But he was the leader of both, it seemed. He was like the deciding vote in the end.
I think they're all equal in that format. I think he just took power for himself because he's an asshole. Let's talk a bit about Black Bolt very quickly. You didn't know who that was, right?
No, so I kind of saw him being a setup to be kind of a laugh.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, he nowadays is. So from the comics, obviously we know the X-Men properties for cinema used to be owned by Fox. Yeah. So what happened was Marvel Comics started to try and stop writing as many comics about the X-Men series as possible, obviously, except for the cash cows, Wolverines, etc.
Yes.
So what they did was they created a new team who were incredibly similar, except lived on the moon. And they basically have this thing called Terrigen Mist, which is mined on the moon, and their peoples, they get put into a chamber with this, and they come out with some sort of power. Okay. And you're either a good power or a bad power. Now, if you're a bad power, you end up mining for more of the Terrigen Mist. If you're a good power, you basically get to live in high society. And it's an interesting flip. And they tried to do that with a TV show, The Inhumans, recently, which was being pushed. It got pushed from being a movie into being a TV show, and then got really sidelined because the TV show was bad.
Terrible.
Real bad. But it was interesting seeing this dude playing Black Bolt, who is the leader of the Inhumans, the king, essentially. His superpower is that if he speaks or he utters words, it's like a tidal wave of power. It just blows the shit out of whatever's in front of it.
Yes.
And that they show that with that universe is Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and so what we in that new universe, going back full circle, where they land in this new universe where Doctor Strange has apparently died killing Thanos, and that was his there's commemorations of him everywhere. Statues. And he's kind of put into a little lab to be experimented on. A version of Claire is, his chick or not so chick is there. They have a little moment, and then he gets pulled in front of the Illuminati.
You mean Christine?
Christine, not Claire. Christine.
Shows you she was underutilized.
Again, underutilized. Rachel McAdams, sorry to say. And then he's been pulled up in front of this group, and they're like, dude, like, we're not worried about this Wanda chick. Like, we're worried about you, bro. And they're like, and then Xavier comes out. Tell him the truth.
He's been using the Darkhold in that universe.
In that universe, yeah, he's been using the Darkhold to basically what was the reasoning? I forget.
Defeat Thanos, and I think he just couldn't stop.
Yeah, and it gets out of hand, and he causes an incursion, which is which we should talk about, which is when two universes in the multiverse collide and either destroy both or one survives.
Yes.
And there's a lot of lore on this. It's obviously what's coming, right?
Yeah,
in the next phase or two.
I liked it. I loved that. I loved the inclusion of all those characters. Yeah. Thought that bit of backstory around their Doctor Strange was really interesting.
Yes.
And I also loved that Scarlet Witch destroyed them in about 30 seconds.
And shortly thereafter, when he's like, no, I think you actually should stop worrying about me. And Patrick Stewart actually agrees. Steve Jobs, I should say.
Steve Jobs. We'll talk about that.
But yeah, he agrees. He's like, you know what? Actually, I think we should tell him the truth because I think this is shit's going down right now. Because they send a couple of the Avengers out. They keep, or the Illuminati out. Big explosions, silence. Sounds like they're dying, but one by one. And we actually get to see that happen, which is really increases the badassery of Scarlet Witch. You see her just like blow the head off of the fork guy.
The best bit about the Black Bolt is, so Black Bolt's power is that if he speaks, he can destroy whatever's in front of him.
Yeah.
And then they basically say, like, Black Bolt, go on, do your thing.
After giving her a big prep speech, like, watch out, we're going to kill you if you don't stop.
And she does the Matrix thing of being like, how can you speak if you don't have a mouth? And then he looks down, literally it's the Matrix, right? Yeah. Like, the bit, his mouth is gone, and he tries to speak, and it blows his own head out the back. It's fucking awesome. Yeah,
it's crazy.
And then she just dispatches of all of them.
Like, Reed
Richards just destroyed.
Pretty quickly, yeah.
Monica Rambeau holds up pretty well. She keeps the fight going for a little bit.
Which is what you'd expect, right?
Yeah, she's one of the most powerful Avengers. It's cool. She basically gets taken down by a statue, which kind of is a bit of a poor ending for her.
Which I'm kind of like, also, would that kill her?
Probably not, but at the same time,
whatever.
I liked that they just had to incapacitate her rather than because she, like you saw, she wasn't destroyed. She was still kind of there. I liked it. Captain Carter got cut in half.
That was gnarly.
Brutal.
Blood on the yeah.
But I like the fact that they also tied off all of those characters. Like people have been saying they wanted those characters in the MCU. I'm glad that it's like they're all gone. They're all
no,
gone.
you don't.
And except for Chiwetel Ejiofor, who that version is still alive. Patrick Stewart's death was probably my favorite of all
Most
of them.
gruesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
He affects. So everyone knows that Professor X. He's a telepath.
He's got mind stuff going on.
Yeah, he sees people's minds and shit. Yeah. He full Steve Jobs outfits into
like,
Wanda's mind
to calm her down. And when he comes out, he can walk and is in the Steve Jobs.
Well, he's in her
turtleneck.
mind.
Yeah, so he's in her mind. Yeah, it's a.
He's about to. Yeah. He goes into her mind and he is about to announce a new iPhone. He's like this. This is iPhone Phase 4, but he goes in and he finds that Wanda Maximoff is still in there, but she's under rubble, and the Scarlet Witch has taken over.
Yeah, it's like the two versions, like the split personality.
And he tries to save, but is snuck up on by the Scarlet Witch, who snaps his neck.
It's like it's really cool cinematic. It's like he's trying to pull her out of this rubble, and you can see from her view behind, like all this smoke is slowly coming, and then she emerged from the mist, like kind of evil looking as well.
Yeah, it's cool.
And just fucking
very Sam
cuts
Raimi.
The cord.
So the neck snaps in that reality, but also the same time in reality. Yeah. In the multiverse at the same time.
In the reality of the other reality.
So many realities.
Yeah.
And I think that was a real highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
That was real fantastic.
Yeah, it was a really good part of it.
Let's super quickly then talk about the post-credit scenes. So the post-credit scenes, there are two of them. The very first one is we find out that Doctor Strange has had to use the Darkhold, as we mentioned, to help out America Chavez, etc.
Before destroying all of them.
Yes.
Or actually, Wanda does that.
Wanda destroys all. Yeah. He wins.
Yeah.
What do you expect? And he's got a third eye now. Yes.
So, and it's implied because the evil Doctor Strange that uses it a lot that he fights had a third eye. It's implied,
because of the Darkhold.
Because of the dark. So it's implied it's from that. Motherfucker barely used it, but
yeah,
I guess
he second.
But I guess he possessed the dead version of himself, which maybe makes it even worse.
Could be.
Who knows? We'll find out. Hopefully, they expand on that. But what does that mean?
I don't know. And I had to look up. He has in the comics had a third eye before, but it tends to be to do with the Eye of Agamotto, which has been destroyed. The Time Stone.
Yeah.
So I don't really fucking know. This must be
probably
going to
make some shit up.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. The CGI was bad. I didn't really like it. It's a new way for Doctor Strange. And that linked into the second one, which was Charlize Theron's character, who is playing Dr. Clea Strange, who is...
his wife in the comics, right?
A wife in the comics.
Yeah.
One-time wife. She's a love interest, and they both essentially hop into the Dark Dimension together. Now, that's intriguing for a couple of reasons. Yes, in the comics they have a past relationship, but she is also often in the comics related to Dormammu. So
yeah, who's the guy from Doctor Strange 1?
The bad guy from Doctor Strange 1. Yeah. So is he jumping in to help her, or is he jumping in to be tricked by her? It's going to be an interesting...
Or are they like... Because she says something about like... I guess now we're in the theory looking forward portion of the podcast.
Yeah.
If he says something about like, you cause an incursion, let's stop it.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, maybe, there's multiple realities, right?
Yeah,
multiple dimensions in a universe. Maybe the incursion that's coming to take them over, I would find it interesting if maybe they have to take Dormammu out of his time loop. Because remember, they left him in a time loop.
Yeah.
And they need his help to go stop this other incursion from destroying their universe. So it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. Okay. That'd be interesting. Anyway.
Look, I'm baffled by where this is going to go. Like, I often come at the end of these podcasts with theories and things I think that might power the rest of it. No idea.
Really? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that now we have the framework for like how the multiverse stuff works.
The big bad's supposed to be Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
And I get that, and there's going to be hundreds of versions.
And that's going to be an incursion that happens, and they're all going to fight him.
Is it that simple?
No, there'll be more shit too. They'll be like
that's what I mean.
The lore, there'll be like the lore stuff, like around the magic that we barely got. You'd hope there'd be some stuff around that. An evil guy there. There's going to be maybe even some X-Men.
I would like that.
There might be some X-Men.
All right, let's quickly do... You got anything else to mention before?
No, man, I think we've done it. We've covered it all.
We did it all. We did it, baby. All right, let's do some true or false trivia, DL. Right, super quickly then. at the beginning of the movie and in the trailer, we see a one-eyed tentacle monster, which in Marvel Comics is known as Shua Magorath, who was named, oh my God, from the phase in Robert E. Howard's short story, The Curse of the Golden Skull. True or false? Now, due to rights issues between Marvel and Howard's estate, the film has the monster, but has renamed it as Gargantos. Is it true or false?
They did have a name for it.
It is true.
Yeah, okay.
Essentially, there's it is a thing in the comics. They had to rename it because of rights issues.
Who cares?
Long story short.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting, like the fact that even though Disney's buying up everything in the world, they couldn't quite get hold of.
Yeah, that's odd. What are the rights issues there? It's a weird one.
He owns the rights. Said dude,
just the
Robert E. Howard.
Just the weird.
Well, he created it basically, so he's like, yeah, mine, bitches. All right, true or false? The makers of Multiverse of Madness cite Steven Spielberg films as influence for the action and horror scenes, most notably Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Is this true or is this false?
I'd say true, I guess.
I was trying to trick you there, but it is actually true. So it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Poltergeist, and Gremlins. I don't know if you've ever seen Gremlins, but that's going to be one we do at some point. That is a fantastic 80s movie.
I've definitely seen Gremlins.
It's fabulous. I really like that, like taking inspiration from these 80s style movies where it was probably more body horror and more like...
Intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Final one then. In April 22, Saudi Arabian film censors demanding that a 12-second long scene in the film would be cut in order to be released in their local theaters. The scene in question is where America Chavez mentions her two mothers, aka lesbian parents.
It's false. It's China.
No, it's true. It was Saudi Arabia. However, Marvel and Disney refused to cut the 12 seconds, probably because the Saudi Arabian market's tiny.
I thought China also had an issue with it.
If it was China, they would have probably cut it because that's where they make all their money. That was our rambling overview of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, DL. Yeah. What did you think?
I loved it, man. I loved it. Did you have any correspondence this week from other people that have maybe seen this movie right when it came out?
I like these powwows. We talk through all the things I do and don't like about these movies.
Yeah.
We did. I actually had an in-person chat with friend of the show, Ollie, who, have to say, shared a lot of my, not concerns, but lack of enthusiasm around the movie.
But it's funny because you kind of liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
At the time.
This is way better than that. Like eons better. Anyway.
It's very true.
I hear you.
We also had some other correspondence. Let us know, you guys, what you thought of the movie. If you've seen it yet. You're asking me that, and this movie's been out 2 days.
Yeah.
So
most people have it.
Most people probably haven't. Let us know, guys. Hit us up at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or
thepodcastassemble@gmail.com.
That's absolutely where you can hit us up. We had a couple of other bits of correspondence this week. We had a friend of the show, Joe, who sent us memes. Memes are back, baby. I called one out at the beginning of the show. I sent you this one. I forwarded you this, and we should put it on our Instagram. But it was from BGM Trends, who did a version of Spider-Man where all of his big moments in movies failed. Now, it's hard to explain. I sent you this, and it's, for example, the one where he's... for example, the one from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie where he's trying to stop the train.
Yes.
And then his arms and legs just explode off him.
That was gruesome.
It was gruesome, but bloody hilarious. Yeah. I'm glad you liked that. A couple of other very quick bits of news then. Friend of the show, Matt, my brother actually, messaged this week, and he said, oh my God, Moon Knight episode 4. What the hell? How many episodes have you seen?
Haven't seen it yet. Can't talk about it. Sorry, boys.
We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
I just said, wait for episode 5, buddy. Your Earth is going to be shattered.
It gets worse.
Matt, let us know next week if you finally get around to watching episode 5 and 6. DL, maybe we talk about Moon Knight next week?
Yeah, I'm down. I'll finish it.
We will come back to it. Final bit of correspondence then. We had a couple of messages on our post this week. Thank you, friend of the show, Lockie, as always, about Zendaya potentially returning only for a cameo in the 4th Spider-Man movie, which has been apparently green lit. A couple of bits of correspondence. Uncle DYL94 Instagram, thank you for your comment. Just mentioned, he said he reckons probably just show up in a post-credit scene, maybe, because if she's going off to MIT, which I think's in Chicago.
MIT is
Boston.
Yeah,
it's in Boston, right? Yeah. And he stays in New York, which he is doing. She's probably going to be a very minor scene.
Well, it also, like, the whole point is this restarts his thing, so you can have another love interest. Like, that you can build from other characters in the Spider-Man universe. Also, I just think that if they, she's pretty popular now, so, like, I'm wondering if it's hard to lock her down too. It's kind of like give her a break, let her come back later. I don't know.
Interesting, they've greenlit this when Tom Holland just came out and said he wanted a break from movies as well.
Greenlit it means, like, 3 years from now it might come out.
Fair. Yeah. Well, thank you all for your correspondence. We do love it. DL, I don't know if you want to wrap up the show. Where can they find us?
They can find us at thepodcastassemble@gmail.com or podcastassemble on Instagram. Send us memes, as Tommy said. We like them. You can also pass the pod on to some friends if you like it. It sounds like most people just want to hear our banter, so you can just give us a review after the 15 minutes of banter. That's fine too. And thanks, Lucky, again, for social media. You're killing it. I think that's it, man. Thanks, Tommy. It's been a good one.
Thanks for sticking with the rambling, guys.
Yeah.
Tally ho.
Tally ho.